What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I'm honored to have back on the show once again for another groundbreaking episode. Satanic and Masonic ritual abuse and mind control survivor and whistleblower, YouTuber and content creator on her own YouTube channel and Substack at the handle at My Admissions, first generational New Zealander, credentialed counselor with a specialization in narrative therapy, communication skills, small group training course facilitator, traditional herbal medicine advocate, retreat co-facilitator, healing warrior, our beloved podcast regular, and my dear sweet friend, Poppy Joy. In case you've missed Poppy's first episode or any of her episodes where she has shared her harrowing, inspiring, and miraculous testimony, here's a brief recap of her story as well as some things you may or can't expect to hear about in today's episode. Born into a multi-generational incest-based family entangled in satanic and Masonic ritual abuse, Poppy endured unimaginable horrors designed to shatter her soul. Yet, from the crucible of extreme trauma, she has forged a path of liberation, healing, and fearless truth-telling that captivates and inspires listeners from all over the world. Her story is not just a testament to survival, it's a blazing call to rise, reclaim, and rewrite the narrative of a life once bound by darkness. Poppy's awakening began in 2017 when the floodgates of suppressed memories burst open, triggered by visceral encounters, including a feral dog's menacing presence, a jellyfish sting that unleashed a histamine storm across her body, and a rash that mirrored the chaos within. These were no mere accidents. They were catalysts, unlocking a lifetime of buried truths. From her earliest years, Poppy's senses were different. Her eyesight and hearing, impacted by trauma, gave way to an extraordinary gift, an energetic perception. She could and still can see the dance of energy, hear whispers of telepathy, and with laser-like focus discern the mechanics of black magic rituals. What her abusers intended would break her became her superpower, a window into the unseen forces that shape our world. Through her recovered memories, Poppy's uncovered chilling revelations, rituals performed to empower government legislation, synchronized with astrological alignments in ancient calendars like the Mayan system, which she later studied to reclaim her spiritual sovereignty. These ceremonial rituals, steeped in occult precision, tethered human consciousness to cosmic cycles, manipulating power on a global scale. Yet Poppy's discoveries didn't end in despair, they fueled her rebirth. Armed with a degree in counseling and expertise in narrative therapy, Poppy had already spent years empowering others, facilitating small groups with courses like Changes That Heal, studying traditional herbal medicine during her battle with cancer and Morgellons, and co-leading retreats. But when her memory surged, demanding her full attention, she turned her healing inward, pausing her work to mend the fragments of her own story. A podcast regular, Poppy has been on this show many times, educating and healing us with her raw, unfiltered testimony, sharing about everything from the Rothschilds, Freemasons, satanic ritual and Masonic ritual abuse, UAPs and extraterrestrial beings, the Mayan calendar, space and time, programming, deprogramming, recovery and healing, and everything in between. And today she is back to dive deeper into her life story, building on the conversations we've had before, including discussing how programming has been held in her body and affected her life, growing up in the family she was born into, being a hyper empath and what that entails, the loss of identity and lostness many survivors feel when recovering and contending with memories, time and space manipulation, consciousness, remote viewing, the power of unconditional love, and so much more. Poppy Joy is more than a survivor. She's a visionary, a healer, and a warrior of light whose heart beats with fierce compassion. With every step, Poppy proves that from the darkest depths, a radiant spirit can rise, unbroken and luminous, to rewrite the stars. Before wrapping up the introduction of today's guest, I'd like to share just a couple quick reminders and updates. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, if you wanted to share any information privately with me, or if you are interested in submitting a written testimony to be featured in a Substack article, you can reach out to me via email at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com or standbysurvivors@protonmail.com. I've also started up a new YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to me there at the handle at Imagination Podcast Official that I am now streaming new episode premieres from weekly. Turn on your notifications and join our absolutely loving community in the live chats every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Central Time. Thank you all on the other side of the screen wholeheartedly for helping to make the imagination the safest space on the internet for survivor, whistleblower, advocate, and educator disclosures. Your support means the absolute world to me and to every single guest on the show. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming back today's guest of honor, survivor, overcomer, and thriver, voice for the voiceless, spiritual warrior, anti-child abuse advocate, walking miracle, content creator, and a woman who is on a mission to speak and bring pure joy into the hearts and minds of all mankind. The one, the only, Poppy Joy. Our sweet Poppy Joy, she's back. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Thank you for being here.
I'm really happy to be with you, Emma, and to be with your beautiful moderators, your team, and everyone who supports your work and what you do. This is your show, and me actually choosing to come and give my testimony originally has been a huge, huge part of my journey out of this incredible darkness. It's been amazing. I have to let everybody know that I'm feeling quite fried at the moment because of everything that's going on in this world, and it's just pulling all the SRA stuff up to the surface. So my voice is a bit jittery and stuff like that because my body has been screaming at me as programming has been coming out. And and your show and the amazing guests that you have, such an incredible variety of people from all different walks of life, all offering different parts of the whole big picture and bringing it out. I'm grateful to everybody, but so many of you are actually helping me as a survivor, and you probably don't even know it. I may mention just a few names in here as I go because you've become part of my story as well. I was absolutely blessed to have Marie come into my life with her unconditional love, and she's a hyper empath as well as I am, and to be able to actually see me and work with me in a way that she did it through unconditional love, and that is what speaks volumes to me. It's what I believe in. It's what I have carried through my life. It is what they have tried to beat out of me, to kill inside of me. And I've got to understand a lot more about how and everything. And during my process of remembering, I started to talk about some of my experiences on your show, Emma. Excuse me. Something's trying to shut me up. Gatekeeper. Stand down. I'm actually telling them to stand down. These gatekeepers want to stop me talking because they fear that they're going to be punished again. They fear they're going to be hurt again. So now I say to them, stand down. Your job now is to protect my sense of self. You've got a job. So I have to give them a new job so that they don't feel like they have to know how valuable they are.
Yes.
How they tried to protect me because they really felt it was the best thing to do. So sorry, but that just came up right there and then. And it was like my voice was starting to get shut down. So I start to be command my system now, rather than my system trying to command me. And that I realized that it did come through quite almost military command style programming of repetition while being tortured, that kind of thing. And as I was saying, I've been listening to all the CIA exposure, and it's absolutely been confirming that what I was seeing wasn't being made up. It's actually like those strategies were used on me. They aligned and fitted in with what I saw. I also now know that I also saw a lot of theatrics as well, and it was very helpful to hear that a lot of this is theatrics, which was conditioning my mind and programming my mind into just massive amounts of fear, incredible amounts of religious trauma, so much confusion there, because the whole objective seemed to be to cut myself off from my heart, to cut myself off from the love that I was born to be. I was actually born, and I think children are born absolutely connected, connected with nature, connected with source. For me, it's been easier to call the God that most people refer to source, because for me, there's been so much confusion over even the word God. Um, there's, I live in Aotearoa, New Zealand, which is actually a state of the United States. It's when you look at how it was sold. But anyway, that's another topic. But I was born in Aotearoa among Maori people, and and there's very beautiful, beautiful stuff. But the winds is seen as the gods in the wind, or the and then there's the astrological gods, which are just abominable and filled with satanic religion. Those gods are the Cronus, the linear time, the cannibal who ate his own children, and then there's all these other gods connected to all sorts of other star systems. But they are actually part of the religion. The stars are actually innocent in themselves, but the perceptions and the religions and the theatrics and what the Babylonian priesthood put on them to condition humanity into all of these things is what's caused the perceptions that we're seeing played out in the world now. Because if they can own belief structures, and especially when they make them go global, and you've got masses of people believing the same thing, then we are going to build and create a simulation or a reality that mirrors that. And it is built, I'm calling it a simulation because it is built upon artificial things. It's built upon artificial concepts. The whole religion of Satanism has infiltrated just about everything in this whole world as I see it. And it's been coming through different orders, through the Black Sun religions, through some of the dragon families in Asia, through the Masonic sort of things, that the Masonic ways which were used in the colonization that came through monarchies. Anywhere there's a hierarchy, and anywhere there's this fight over bloodlines, I'm so over it. I'm so sick of it in some ways. They're beautiful people. Children are used for their bloodline because they're sensitive, they're hyper empaths, they have gifts, and their consciousness was seen as a resource to be taken and used against one another. So in them trying to break my heart, and convinced me that I was the spawn of Satan and scum of the earth. Love was the thing that would keep coming through, because that was me. And it was almost like the more that it came through, the more I'd be punished. And then, we just had an example of a gatekeeper part just coming through, and my voice was just stopping in protection for me. That if I'm going to talk about the love, if I'm going to talk about that this is how I believe, and this is what I see it. I see a common theme in just about every survivor I see, regardless of what their belief system is. It's actually love that is motivating them. And what we all have is this incredible love for the children. I feel that so many of us are from families, or there's something in us where we are very hyper aware, very sensitive, and that's the consciousness that they could use. And you get a child early enough, then you can create them into assets for basically for warfare. Because just watching all the CIA disclosure that's been coming out, and how MK Ultra was used, to me, World War II never stopped. It just became covert, and it just became so covert and so hidden that we didn't even know that we were the soldiers in this war. Because we have a front person that's going on in life, and all these things that were done in secret, and this is like the depravity of it all. The most cruel part of it all is that it were children. So they were making warriors from children, even from the womb. So I have been dealing mostly with programming since the last time that I was on a podcast. And it's been incredibly telling to go through the different layers of my system. I'm very grateful to O'Blockheed for pointing out some of the programs that were there, and it really confirmed what I already knew, but it also helped me see more deeply what had happened to me. I would have a lot of flashbacks and remember, hey, why was I doing this? Why was I doing that when I was a child? What took me off to another country to do something? Well, there was voices in my head, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. I've got some notes, but it's caused me to look over my whole life and the irregularities and everything that were in it. Like, when we get brought up in a family, it's all we know. We don't know. We only know that environment. We only know what goes on within that family. We only know the rules, and you kind of assume that the rest of life is like that. But my father was in the British Royal Marines in training, getting trained in World War II. He had some sayings that were kind of telling that he would keep constantly repeating, which I felt were part of his coping. And one of them was, worse things happen at sea. So whenever I had a problem or something was going on, he would just almost say it as a cliche, worse things happen at sea. Now I know what kinds of things those things are that happen at sea with that programming, and why navies have a reputation for sodomy and things like this, and the other thing he would constantly say was never trust a Catholic. And And I used to watch him watching the news. He was addicted to watching the network news at 6 o'clock every night. It was like dinner revolved around that. And you'd sit there and I could see him, and he was almost like getting sucked into the screen. It was just, and I could feel his anxiety, and I could feel him listening to that bullshit and responding to it, and I could feel the fear in him keeping his programming going. And as a child, I was kind of forced into, as a schoolgirl, we got forced into this thing about studying current affairs. We had to do it. And I would look at this and it didn't resonate with my energy. And I was just like, it cast me into deep depression to even look at what was going on in this world. And it was, to me, it was just so confusing, just like it is now, because everything that's being put out there and said is all theatrics and a big stage, and it, you know, it ties up to the Wizard of Oz programming so much, you know, like behind that curtain, what is there? It's like a puppet show. So the staged theatrics, and then there's just this terrible lostness and trying to find the self. I can't, I've never been able to even watch that. And it's just so creepy. The whole show is absolutely so creepy. Yeah, I'm going to be darting all over the place at the moment. And this is the chaos of a of a shattered system. So it's kind of real. But I'll go back to, okay, so I've been doing breathwork for over 20 years. Breathwork, to me, breath is the breath of source. That's what gives us life. So that's the breath of God. I'm going to say source, so just know that I mean God in the most, in the omnipresent, omnipotent, everywhere, full consciousness aspect. That's what I mean. And this breath work is a practice that I've been doing daily, which I just have been going through layers and layers of remembrance. It connects you up to what is true. I ask a question, source shows me answers. My body, I'll breathe into my body holds the memory of everything that has ever happened to me. And when I breathed into being an embryo, I had a breathwork memory once of being an embryo, being in my mother's womb, and it felt like I was in a cast iron tomb, and it was incredibly painful to feel. And it felt like my whole system was absolutely raw and on fire, and that my nerves were just stinging and burning. And I have a lot of that going on in my body at the moment, all down here. All down here, it goes into my breast, it goes all through my pelvic region, down my whole leg and down my left side. And that is connected up to the programming. There was shocking. It does make me wonder whether I was shocked in the utero. I don't know, but I believe that I felt really shattered, and my memory was that I wanted to abort myself at that time and not even come into this life. So that's my earliest memory of this life. It's just really hit me over this last period of time. I've had to pull into my body. I've had to come back into myself. I've had to find myself. In doing that, I can't ignore myself either. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of discomfort. I have, when memories or programming is coming to the surface, I'll get massive headaches like I did yesterday. I just woke with anxiety and incredibly massive headache, and I I prayed immediately because I felt it was really health dangerous, because my heart was pounding, my blood pressure was high, it's just boom, boom, boom. So I just put my prayer out and said, protect me, show me what I need to see, and help me through this. And this is how desperate it will feel. So that was yesterday morning, and I went into the breath and I just couldn't breathe. And it's like, why can I not breathe? It's only going to a certain depth. And then that's when I got in touch with gatekeeper parts that were like, we don't want you to see, we don't want you know, it's not safe, and we're going to get hurt. And that's when I actually reassigned them their new roles to breathing everything, because it's a battle of what they want to convince me is that what I have seen I must have made it up. It can't be true. It's too out there. It's too, seeing extraterrestrials, seeing, and just the absolute cruelty and sadism, that the lengths, the money that they must have spent on to keep me down. Like, why? What? It's like a lot of effort for one little old lady. Dare I say that? I'm not exactly young anymore. Excuse me. Yeah, so it's like really dawned on me how deep it is, but it's pulling me into myself. It's like I've been out here all my life, looking at my life, everything from the outside. I've been out here, and it's like now I'm kind of like gradually integrating and bringing in, scooping up all these lost parts of myself. And what I realize is that there's also these aspects and these parts of myself who are extremely wise, extremely psychic, extremely sensitive, but they disappear and they go off somewhere because I'm fragmented. I forget, I get lost, I forget whole aspects of myself. They can just totally disappear and not be around me for ages, especially when it comes to feelings of being the most painful is when I feel disconnected from source, disconnected from nature or earth, and I just can't feel them. And that's in the moments like that, I can't feel them, but they reassured me that even when I can't feel them, they're always there. And why I can't feel them is because I have to feel what was overlaid on top of them. I have to feel the trauma, the programs that have to come off and release me from them over and over and over again, which can leave me really disorientated, very dizzy, thrashing. I have been incredibly limited, and I haven't been able to communicate the depth of that to everybody. But I only go out on rare occasions. I like to try to walk down and I've had trouble with paralysis. I've had trouble with moving my body. I have trouble with this incredible weight that will come over the top of my being, and I'll just swell up, and it's just like I just get thrown into having to go into breathwork and meditation a heck of a lot. And yes, it's been incredibly isolating, but the beauty of that isolation is it's almost like it had to be, because I was still going to cling and grab at things that I thought were going to help me on the outside. And I have people who have extended love towards me, sometimes I found that I would start to be a little bit clingy, or a little bit like seeing them as a little bit as lifelines, and then it's like source was coming back and going, no, you're that, it's in you, it's in you. And the faith has always had to come straight back to creator and creation. The two. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a really hard start to life. I was absolutely shocked. My birth, which I do believe was to my biological mother, was very, very fast. I've had recall of that with breathwork too. The labour was incredibly fast, and my lungs hadn't quite matured in time for that first breath. So my first breath was just like massively painful. There was no bonding with my mother. Everyone was a little bit shocked about how fast I arrived. The doctor just, the feeling was I felt like I was being mocked as soon as I was born. I can remember going down a hallway, being taken away from my mother. I could see the lights down a hallway. And that isolation and abandonment was one of those first things. Yeah, and then at about 15 months old, I felt that I was having this experience where I looked into my mother's eyes and I felt so much love towards her in that moment. And then whatever was in her, through my child vision, and you see things like an overlay, but something overlaid her in that moment. Her eyes went steel blue, and she actually sexually attacked me in that moment. So I could never trust her, and she would often come out with outbreaks of violence that I could feel her trying to, like, she was shocked by her own violence. So I could feel everybody's energy growing up. And I could feel her convincing herself it didn't happen, it didn't happen, it didn't happen, it didn't happen, until she had got to this point where she'd kind of deleted out or blanked out her unpredictable or violent behaviours towards me at different times. And then the ritual that I believe was happened towards empowering banking legislation in this country, and finding out that my parents were connected with the Rothschild, my mother, her father, that her mother was a teacher at Exbury, which is the Rothschild estate in England, and seeing that my mother had, a mother that needed a lot of Valium, a mother who couldn't cope, a mother who was disconnected from her emotions, a father, he had no emotion. They used to say it was a Yorkshire thing, the stiff British upper lip, they called it, and I just thought it was cultural. But the whole family was run, my life was run like I didn't get any choice about what I wanted to take part in. I was told, you're going to this, you're going to that, you are joining the marching team, you're being in the marching team, you're going to Girl Guides, you're going to Brownies. Everything was orchestrated, and I had no will of my own, no choice. Anything I ever did want was denied. my siblings were rewarded and I was punished with some things, like because I, I was so disconnected from my body. I had um, I had problems with bedwetting and wetting my pants in the day and not knowing when I needed to go to the toilet and being caught unawares and just being totally disorientated with the whole thing. So one year um, for Christmas, everybody in the family got a new sleeping bag. That was the present, but I wasn't given one because I was just given this horrible old thing that my father had had with terrible energy because I wet the bed. So it was constantly being shamed, constantly being humiliated, um, feeling it all the time. Just, I was really in despair and hyper, and it felt like a hell of a life, actually. And I had to pretend that everything was okay and put on a smile and just show up wherever I had to show up. But I didn't show up with all of me at all. I was just trying to work out, why do people do what they do? Um, Even my friends as children, the first friend that I had was cruel, and she would pull my teeth out before they were ready with pliers. That's one thing she did. And I let her. I thought that was normal. And then she left. I was going through hell at school. It felt like I was being humiliated daily because I couldn't control my bladder and I was being sent to the headmistress and I'd be punished. My next friend was arranged. She was the daughter of an Anglican minister. I really liked her, actually. We really got on well. We laughed. One day she told me my mother was a witch, and I didn't even know what a witch was, and I didn't really know what she was, but it just stayed in my mind. And she'd come from a Christian family, so I guess that was coming from that perspective. And it was like her parents had told her that, and I didn't know, and I kind of just shook it off. But she basically, it was because she reckoned my mother knew everything and knew everything, and there was no secrets that could be hidden from my mother. And I think that's where it came from. Gatekeepers again. So I really loved her, and I think we just had this silent where we didn't need any words, and we cared about her. No, her father became the first Anglican minister that became a Catholic priest ever, and he molested me once when I was at her place, and he was drunk, and who knows what else. But is he involved in the whole cult actions? Quite likely, quite likely. um Part of my trying to find out everything, I contacted someone that I knew from my childhood a while ago. I didn't, but it's very hard to talk to people with all this, and this is what you're trying to find out about. It's like, you know. But she told me, this someone who knew that I used to hang out with a little bit as a child, and she said you were so timid, you never said anything, you were so shy, you were bullied all the time. And so this was her observation from the outside. And um, she said she liked me, she liked my company, but she was worried about me. And she said there was talk in the town because all four of us children were kept very skinny, and we all were kept very skinny, but we all had these bloated big bellies, like like starving, when people have when they're starving. And yes, my food was regulated and I was always hungry, and I know that I experienced lots of deprivation. I experienced sleep deprivation, I experienced food deprivation, and liquids. My memories is that I was taken away at different times in my life, that I think some of these things happened. Yeah, and it was pretty young. When I was a toddler, one day I had a tantrum in my bedroom. I had a doll, and I was supposed to love this doll and treat it like a baby. But to me, this doll, they were trying to tell me it was like, you got to love this like a baby. The doll, I couldn't feel a soul in it, and I was mortified, and I felt like it was a horrible trick. So I literally had this doll, and I was thrashing it and bashing it around the world. Like, I was around my room, and I remember I broke the electrical outlet just by bashing this doll, and I was just like, and I was beside myself in rage and fear that this doll was just like this most evil thing that was given to me. Like, get it away, get it away from me. And why do you have that? That's just not normal for a toddler. It's not normal for a child. And I do feel that it was all connected up to the rituals that were going on, and the programming, and I didn't understand. For me, why did I have to pretend so much? I was growing up to pretend. That's what it felt like. I had to pretend that I was happy. I had to pretend that everything was all right. I had to make, like, my mother was very strict about manners and how we appeared, and I almost, like I just feel like I was just popping out all over the place because I couldn't handle it overall. And I think that I was continually punished for not, that the part of me that always wanted to be authentic or be real, which is the love aspect, because that's what's saved my life. That's my natural state of being, and my soul, my being always had this compulsion to return back to my natural state of being all the time, while feeling like I was being pulled out of it, and I wasn't allowed to believe my own perceptions. I wasn't, they were always told, I was always told they were wrong. And because I was so sensitive and connected up with probably things that were more true, and a little child that would just talk it all out and scare people without even knowing it. And I think that's just a part of being a hyper empath, is that you feel the energy in everything, and you feel the intentions of everyone. And to me, no human could ever be trusted. And and I loved animals and the wind and nature. And I was devastated when my father shot the cat in front of me, because that cat was my counselor. I used to have telepathy with a cat that we had in our family, and it was the only being ever I felt understood me, because we would lie and sit together by the fire, and in my mind I would speak to the cat, and I would share with the cat how miserable I felt, and how, and the cat would comfort me and hold space for me. And my father said that he had to toughen us up, and that's one of the things. It was one of these things he said to me all the time, is that you kids, you're all too sensitive and you need to be toughened up. And all this toughening up was just taking me further and further and further and further away from my sense of self. And I've had so many encounters in this life, because love has been my savior, the love that is inside of me. And we know what love is, don't we, Emma? All babies are born with it, I'm sure. I mean, I know that some babies are born broken already, but if we are a natural human, that's the foundation of our being, and that's what we want to express in this life. But I feel even persecuted for always reverting back to love. And it's been very confusing, because in my programming set, there's been the Tin Man programming of the heartlessness programming of mechanisms of torture, repetition, spinning, all sorts of things that have happened to me that were there designed to break my heart. And yes, my flame was barely burning a lot of the time, and there were times where, in order for me to survive, I felt like I was a harsh person, and I went into that harshness at different times, and I believe that I was cruel to others at different times, as part of my programming, which only made me even more heartbroken and made me look at myself and go, that's not love. That's not love. And want to come back again to love, which would just keep coming up and keeping me going, because with love comes truth and becomes, the way to live. And what I feel, and what my perception is that we become that way of love. That's the potential of every human being. And when I fall in love with so many human souls, because I see the potential in every human soul, and I see pain as well. And I've been drawn to a lot of people that have been in a lot of pain, and I've just wanted them to see their potential and where they can come back into love. And I think that's partly why I pursued counselling, but also to understand myself. Yeah. I'm just looking at my notes here. Yes, another thing that I remembered growing up, because just listening to all the CIA disclosures, it made me remember things that other people went through. So when I was about 8, and my brother was about 10, probably, well, he would have been 10 if I was 8, we were told that we were going to go to the dentist in a nearby town and that we were going to have teeth extracted that were molars that hadn't come through, that we were told that our mouths were too crowded and that we would have to have molars taken out, so that when our wisdom teeth came through, we wouldn't have a crowded mouth. So that's what I was told. I mean, I don't remember any concerns with the whole dentistry, but anyway, that's what we were told. So we go off to a town, and I just remembered my consciousness. There's narrating, reporting, all sorts of different parts that will remember these things. Like, you've got to remember that for later. You've got to remember that for later. This is part of something. So anyway, going off to this appointment, I can even remember the number plate of the Mini DQ9942. Like, it was a car that we went into. Like, my memory will just remember certain details when things are so shocking. It's almost like you remember more. You just see it more. And anyway, so we went off to this dentist. I was told my brother was getting a general anesthetic for his, but that I was being given nitrous oxide or gas. And anyway, I remember sitting in the dentist chair and they put the thing over my nose, and I could, the sensation of going backwards, 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 backwards. Almost, it just reminded me of other times. Now, I don't know this for sure. This is what it feels like for me, and this is what I have to express to get it out of my system. One, there were no wisdom teeth either. I believe that I was given drugs that similar drugs to what happened in rituals, because that's what it felt like. I believe that I felt that dentistry and could not move and could not respond. Because it's been all through me, all through my, it's been coming up and out and through with body memory. And my mother later on in life would say, oh, I felt so bad about you having that surgery. But they should have done an x-ray and shown that you didn't even have the wisdom tooth. And that was all unnecessary at the time. And I could just hear all the lies and all the cover up and everything. As she said all of that, I could feel it. And so I'll just let people talk when that happens. And I will still disassociate as well, but then I'll come back to it at a later state and relook at it. But anyway, we were going home and I was sitting in the back seat of this little Mini, and I started to get extremely nauseous, and I said, stop. And I got out and I just threw up and threw up and threw up violently, just threw up. And it was just like it was actually like a really big trauma response to me. And my mother said, oh no, this is all normal. This is what happens. It's just the anesthetic or something, like.
Did they actually extract teeth?
Yeah, they took out molars on four, and now my mouth is Like, I actually had a baby tooth that came out at the age of 49 because there was no other teeth to push it out. So I've been short of teeth. And because there were no wisdom teeth, or did they take them as well? Who knows? I don't know, because everything they tell me is lies. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, that was really awful, and I was glad that I could work a little bit with Marie in that one through the journey therapy. Um, to forgive, to detach. When I talk about forgiving, I'm saying whenever anyone did, you could say it's really, it's kind of unforgivable almost, but it's for me to detach from that energy and not be entangled and enmeshed with the emotional charge of what happens. But yeah, I'm releasing emotional charge. This is actually very cathartic today. It's just the way it is because of the energy of this, everything that's going on in the whole world at the moment that I'm feeling. I'm just feeling massive surges of energy within the whole collective consciousness of reaction and response and confusion and and rage. That there's rage going on, and almost it has to happen. I have had rage over what has happened to me. Now that the whole world is going through a satanic ritual, yeah, you're going to feel rage. People are going to feel rage at the amount of black magic, the people that are trying to rule the world, the want to be players that have still been seeking to be power. They're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. These are death throes. Again, they don't want me to. It's like, shut up, shut up. Stand down, stand down. These are really precarious times, and survivors, you're feeling it. You're feeling it. As all the SRA and the memories and the blackmail and the trickery and the deceit and the theatrics and everything is coming to the surface. It's just like the polluted waters of the earth are bubbling up and boiling out, and all of this memory is coming out, and it is coming through us because we're actually incredibly loving and sensitive people. So it's going to be bringing up our own pain. Please don't get brokenhearted in the process, and remember who you are. Remember the love that you are, and the love that has taken you out of the misery and the hell that we've been through. And this is a process that even in the moments when we can't feel our connection, it's there. It's there. And we're actually transmuting a lot of this energy in our own personal healing. Like, I know that the greatest thing any one of us can do is just to keep healing, keep deprogramming, keep coming back to the self, keep remembering who you are, keep remembering the incredible love that you are and the incredible power that you are. And in me being afraid of myself as that incredible love that I am and power that I am, it's only been making all these symptoms worse. And I've had to, I did a fairly recent journey with Marie, and these rituals are so cruel, and the programming, that it's like programming follows the rituals more so. But I was in like Stockholm syndrome. I was like safer for me to shut up and be in my cage and back out and get out now than it is to come and shine the full lightness of my true being. So it's actually taken me an incredible amount of courage to own up to the love that I am, while my self-worth has been pulverized by these incredible lengths and measures that they've had to try to break me, and that it's a miracle that I'm alive. And it's because of my great love for children and that we all get set free that I am alive. Because the pain and suffering that I go through is horrific, and no one wants to live through that, really. I understand it, and I understand why people that have cancer choose to succumb to it, because I know that the body holds everything. It really does. And it's just like there's just so much in it to unravel and to heal all the parts and to find some integration with everything. Yeah. So when I'm really absolutely connected, I want to bring people back to it too, even a little bit. But when I feel absolutely connected, I feel the love in the wind, I feel the wonder in nature. Like I can look at some lichen and I can feel its purpose in everything that it's doing, and I can connect with a plant and it will tell me how it would like to be used for medicine. And there's this, I can hold a tree and I can feel its rhythm and I can feel it slow me down. Like I like to put my head against a tree and just go, and you just feel that oneness with the tree, and it's like it's it's so peaceful. So every tree has a different personality. It's like getting to know them, and that's really, really beautiful, and it kind of, it brings me back to myself as well. I know I'm popping in and out of all sorts of things. Is this going okay, Emma?
It is. It's like so beautifully heartbreaking listening to you because you just hear this horror story after horror story and nobody there to show any positive example for you. No matter where you go, you're just cornered by evil,
Yeah.
and psychopathy. And to just see these little glimmers that continue to come out of you of love, that somehow that was just always inherent in you. You were never shown it even from birth. That's so sad to think you didn't get, you and so many people were pulled away from that connection to your parents, your mother, and but somehow that thing inside of you and in so many others who have gotten out of this, it remained no matter if you saw the example, if no matter what evil crossed your path, no matter what abuse, they couldn't, like you said, they couldn't beat that out of you. They couldn't destroy that out of you. They could pulverize your self-esteem, but they couldn't take that light. It was always there, and I'm sure they absolutely hated it. But I'm just like listening, and as my heart's breaking, I'm like just so deeply inspired because there's people that haven't even, I mean, you even said it, the world's in rage, and a lot of these people never went through what you did, and they can't pull that out of them. They're treating each other with just horrifically, and we've lost our humanity. And then you see somebody like you who was never shown humanity as a child, and somehow you have just this greater perspective and this point of view and this inherent love in you that it can't be sold, it can't be beaten, it can't be pulverized, it can't be talked down to, and I just it it perplexes me how you have that but so many people can't find it, even though it's all around them. They had it, they have examples everywhere, and somehow theirs got beaten out of them, and it's just, it's heartbreaking, but it's like so beautiful to see you here today and to like, I see this light coming out of you. I can feel your energy, even though you're all the way across the country. I feel that love in you, and it's like, it's beautiful and amazing and inspiring, and like I want to hold on to it when I'm in my lows, and just think about you and like if you can do this, we all have the potential to. And that gives me great hope that like we can come out of this rage
Yeah,
period that humanity's going through, and that the next stage might be what you've recognized, that we can learn through you and through other survivors who have that like we can always come back to that like we don't have to let the world beat that out of us. We all have that, So just thank you for being that. Like I truly feel it, and it's like it's leaving me speechless, but it's very beautiful to witness.
yeah, yeah. And this is just how I am really presenting today. Like this is just authentic and real and raw, and me coming into terms with all with all that's happened. So as much as what has happened to me is heartbreaking, I also know that it's heart building. It's heart building to come through. It's heart building to come to ourselves. And we can't, one of the problems that humanity has is comparing or comparison, and that we all have this different life, and we need to know ourselves. And for each person, no matter what we've been through, what we haven't been through, if we get to know ourselves and build the love that we are and remain in the love that we are, we hold that for everything. And because our perceptions are what create reality, if we're holding those perceptions, we're automatically creating a better world. Like you, Emma, what did you do when the world started to turn to custard? You started to go, hey, what's going on? I'm going to find out, and I'm going to investigate, and I'm going to let survivors talk. And for 5 years, survivors have been talking in a bigger way than ever before. That I'm being aware of it anyway. Like we've had beautiful Kathy O'Brien out there for ages, and we've had other people that were, but your work has brought it out. I think you brought it to people like Mark Atwood, like who have these massive big audiences, and they came through you. I saw so many people on your show and then on his, and like which has meant that it has reached so many people. What I love about your show and about you is that it is far reaching, but there's safety is generated and made. There's always an emphasis on building what works for the guest. There's always like, how did you get out of it? How did you get through? It's always that. It's not like, like honestly, some podcasters they would treat people like us as a freak show. And that's just terrible, like it's like, oh, I want numbers, I want this, but what about the holding you under your wing? Like you do that, and it's become like a community where people are helping survivor testimonies, helping other survivors. We're getting the truth about how this all got put together through the CIA disclosures, through the work that Gray does, through everybody researching everywhere and pulling all of these pieces together and going, wow. And the thing is that SRA has been the foundation for the simulation, which has been built on belief and perceptions that are illusions, that are without God, without source. You know, we just want to get out of this, you know, and this is where I realized, because I recently I terrible pain, like dealing with the religious trauma. I got really triggered by a set of scriptures that someone used, and I thought, right, I'm going to look at all these scriptures that were put together, and I got so triggered, and I just felt so evil to me. And then I realized that those very same scriptures were used against me, and programmed into me that I was the evil one, that God was going to kill and smite down and punish eternally and forever. So everything was inverted. And and one of your beautiful other guests on the show, I could talk with her about it, and I could see her perspective on it. And she was going, no, those are directed. Those are directed at the people that are doing this. It's not directed at you. And, you know, like, she could help, you know, bring me back, and we had a healing conversation. And I'm really grateful. And then I was getting a flashback, and I was hearing them saying that I was the spawn of Satan, and that, you know, that ritual that when I was 2. Now it appears, listening to the CIA reports, it appears that it was a marriage to the beast type thing. And I mean, I don't even want to go into the details of that. It is what it is for me. It was disgusting. It was terrible. And it certainly stopped that. But because this beautiful woman is a Christian, and I had lost my connection with that being for a while, even though he had been showing up in my journey therapy sessions and giving incredible wisdom and guidance to me. I was seeing that as Lucifer. I was seeing, you know, I was seeing, I do believe that there has been an image of Jesus that is used in Satanism, and terrible confusion with that. But anyway, this lovely lady really encouraged me to connect, and she said she'd be praying for me, and I was like, right. And I went, right, you've got to show me direct, because I can't go through anything that is told to me or put on me, because it's all outer information, and I can't trust outer information unless it resonates with the absolute core of my being. So I was like, show me yourself, show me. And over the next few days, I was right there in that presence of who I would call Yeshua. And his skin complexion was darker than every picture that you would see. The love, the feeling was very familiar to me. The presence, the feeling, like, he treats me like I'm his sister, and he feels brotherly to me. Like, that's how close I feel. But this is really personal, and I'm not going to be sharing that a lot. I mean, that's sharing as much as I want to share with that, because this is dear to my heart. This is my amazing connection. This is something that keeps me going. And you know, like, I'm like, why to him? And he said, it's the love for the children. It's got to stop. This regime. And so I see him as a way, and he's like, he's like, and even I've listened to Kevin Annette respond to some of his viewers on Mark Atwood's show, and they'll say to Kevin, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing," or something, and Kevin will go, "Well, come on, join me, let's do it," and he's really encouraging people to be the way, because he's become the way, like, and that is what I feel is part of this massive healing. We were going to guarantee that we stop this forever and ever, is that each human being chooses to become the way. And you know what? That way is actually foundational to my being. From the time that I was a child, I could not understand the money system. I could not understand exploitation. I could not understand hierarchy and control and domination. I could not understand why people were fighting and against one another, because when you feel everyone and everything, you see the God in them, or you see the source in them, you see the light in them, and what's possible, and like, but why are we hurting one another? Why are we still harming one another, like to such brutal lengths? My cat's just come up. Yeah. So, and at that moment when I realized, here I was in presence, in a conversation, seeing, feeling, I'm remote viewing. I'm remote viewing this being as if he is here with me right now. And this is how I understand that time and space is such an illusion that we've got caught in. Why do we have linear time? Because we've been told that we live by a clock, we live by a schedule. And you know what? So much of that schedule and that timing is coming from another dimension. And so much of it, I've discovered, is actually connected up to artificial intelligence systems. So is the banking system. So much, even a lot of, even the energy of Lucifer and Satan, it feels very artificial, very AI, very overlaid, everything over everything. It's just like I've been studying consciousness. This has been a part of how I get out that. If I'm studying consciousness, what am I studying? I'm studying source. And that is everything. So from our human being, we hold this light, we hold this love, we hold this consciousness within us. And if we ask a question, we connect with that consciousness, and we can have any question answered. We can go through space and time and arrive and find at those things. Now, at the moment, I don't know if other people are realizing, it's like time is warping, it's glitching, it's all over the place. It's actually, the simulation is breaking down. And this was part of what I discovered when I studied the Mayan calendar and the great epochs and eras of time. And then I actually let go of reporting on the Mayan calendar recently. People were finding it confusing. And my consciousness was also going outside of myself in some ways to run my perceptions through a Mayan framework, when I could go direct with source all along. So now what I'm doing, and the information that I'm putting out there, I'm just responding to what I'm feeling. Like I put something out yesterday along the lines of not entertaining the theatrics that are going on in this world. It's taking us away from ourselves. It's taking us away from our healing. It's taking us away from what has breath and sentience. It's taking us away from nature. And it's just building and creating more and more of the conflict, of the drama, of the reaction to everything. So I believe that one of the greatest things I can do is to keep my system in as much peace as possible. There's another beautiful angel who's come into my life who is an Epstein survivor. I'm not going to say too much because I didn't get her permission to speak about her today, but she's helping me with programming. Again, it's beautiful, unconditional love. I feel a deep connection with her because she's also a hyper empath who feels everything and everyone. And I know that she feels what the world feels at the same time. Like, honestly, the people I can trust most in this world are the hyper empaths because they can see me, they can feel me, they 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 know my authenticity and they're not going to question it and doubt it, which is something just that just gets in the way of everything, is when people doubt you and when people try to, you know, call it all delusional. And yes, there have been delusions that I've grown up with. Yeah, I was actually heading down on some other path and I kind of lost it. But I feel that everything that's been communicated is so essential for now, because I just see humanity flipping and floundering around, like in this lostness as well. Like the MK Ultra programming has gone further and further and further into the whole collective, and it's sucking people into their screens and away from themselves and away from nature. And there's beautiful stuff. Like, I'm very, very selective about what I look at now. There's very little that I can look at. I look at things that are helping me to heal. Like, I'm looking at your shows. I look at the other odd thing, but honestly, there's not much out there on the internet that is resonating at all. There's another woman that's started to talk about time and space in the way that was with my perceptions, and I definitely look into her work and what she's saying, and she is speaking it out. The way that I've come to understand is that humanity has been caught up in the whole simulation of its collective belief systems, and that there's is 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 a massive rendering and there is a massive splitting of the ways, which I can feel. I know that how do survivors transmute all this energy through all the deliverance? That's going back to source. 24/7 people are going through deliverance. It's going back to source, and source is dealing with it, and it's no longer in our collective field anymore. It's being cleared out. I've done a heck of a lot on my own behalf. There's a whole bunch of people who'll get out there walking bare feet and are consciously transmuting and with the earth. I feel her. She relies on human perception. This is where matter materializes out of the human perception, which is creating, like I was like rocking and reeling with, how does it work? How is it working that all of these people are getting delivered? Well, they believe, and this is source connection, like I'm using it in different words that fit with me because of the abuse that was in me, but it's the same thing. And here I am. I can't stand the division. I couldn't stand feeling outside of the Christian people that I love when I was wrestling and reeling with my dealing with the religious abuse. That felt heartbreaking, to be feeling like I'm losing connections where this unconditional love is. But you know what? The unconditional love comes, it reached up and said, we've got you, Poppy. We've got you. Because we know what you're going through. You don't have to be perfect. It's crazy, you know. There is terrible, terrible programming in me about perfectionism. That if I were to flip one way to the side, that might mean someone's life. That might mean a choice that they make you make the most terrible choices with it. Now, I can't remember everything, but I know that reality really well. There's other things that I can't remember about, but I get flashbacks. And so, yes, maybe it's going to come to the surface. When I was a child, I hated the Queen. I couldn't stand the Queen. My mother loves the Queen, and it really grieved me that she loved the Queen. And she had a little sewing tin, and it had a picture of the Queen's coronation on it. And I remember picking up the sewing tin and looking at the Queen's eyes and just feeling so much, so much dread, so much hatred. And I grabbed a pin and I blotted out her eyes. I was just like, ugh, ugh, and I couldn't stand it. And it was like, I couldn't stop myself doing it as a child. And then I have these weird flashbacks that will just keep coming, and I can see it quite clearly now. And this was when I started to remember from a theme park that I was in. I went on this ride in a theme park. It just happened to coincide with me being adrenally exhausted from the whole day. But it was this technology where you hop in it and the acceleration is so fast, and it will take you on this ride that has the fastest acceleration somewhere in the Gold Coast of Australia, and the acceleration. And I remember being in there and everyone's going, ah, in the pictures, and I'm just going like this, totally dissociated and out. And that was bringing me to memories of underground transport systems that I believe I've been on. And I'm just going to say it that way. I'm owning it as my perception. Anyway, I believe that the chances are that with everything that I have seen and known, and the feeling, I feel that I was, as a little toddler, in a Christmas street parade in England. I remember being in like a little float, like in like a little chariot, and it almost looked like I looked like a little Aladdin thing. And this is in the, dressed up like that. No people around me, like this little one just on my own. And then it's almost like the procession went one way, but mine float went down and went underground. And I cannot and do not want to see what happened. But if I have to, my body will call it up and I will have to see it. But these are flashbacks that I still get, that are still alive and still a little bit raw. Like I've seen parts of that happened and like they're things that you just can't get out of your. It stays. It's just stays. And now I'm going to trust my system, trust my being. This is the courage that you have to have. Like, okay, so if somehow my life and that I was used up in some kind of, right, we're gonna marry you off to this religious idea of Satan. As a child, you're ours and we claim you, and your consciousness is going to be used to hurt and harm other people. Yeah, it's absolutely feasible. It's the Rothschilds that own the banking system. It's the whole Masonic thing. It's like somehow my family got involved in this. I got involved in this. I believe that because I as a child, I've known all my life that this life somehow, because I have that higher aspect of my being always informing me, and this is where it can feel like the delusions of grandeur, is that my whole life I knew that this was the life where pain and suffering and misery was going to stop and it was going to cease forever, and that there was a chance that we would go into a new reality. And I would get visions of it and I'd see it, and like it would come back to me at different times in my life. Like during my 30s, I was on all sorts of SSRIs, including Prozac. I was on amitriptyline, which is like a nerve blocker. I was on so many painkillers, and I was on sleeping tablets, and I was numbed out so that I could function and comply and and do my job. And the medical profession and the psychiatric profession seemed pretty happy to have me in that state. Told me that if I just kept taking my medication, the meditation worked better than the medication, I tell you. But if I kept taking my medication, then I'd still be okay, and all of that. But when I did choose to come off it and go to a naturopath and everything like that, I started to remember again. I'd be meditating, and I would see glimpses into the future, which, if time is illusion, it's kind of like we're experiencing the fractal of our awareness in any given space and time. So it's almost like the future is already here, like now, like everything is in the now. Everything can be in the now. It's hard to explain. But I saw myself at a campfire, and it felt like I was in the States somewhere, actually. And we were all sitting around remembering who we are and getting back to nature. And these were all healing, like big healing circles of people that were just talking and sharing their lives and sharing their realities and uplifting and helping one another, reminding one another of how we return back to nature and experience ourselves in reality. So that was like around about, oh gosh, that was 2000, and yeah, the early 2000s that was coming into my awareness, before I got introduced to the breathwork, through where I was started to do healing retreat centers and stuff. That. So that reminds me of another experience that I had. So around the time when MSN was a thing and chat rooms became a thing, and I think I got really drawn to them. And it was while I was doing my professional counselling studies, and I used to flip in and out of doing that and then going on to MSN. And what was happening was I could feel a lot of military energy in MSN. And it was very interesting that I could feel military energy. But what happened back then was you'd have all these rooms, and I was like pretty newly divorced, and well, I was becoming divorced in the process. And so I was going to a group of, 30s and 40s separated and divorced, just where people would link in. And I started to get attracted to military people. And this is where I think there's beta programming, and which beta programming is like the sexual sort of like honeypot sort of stuff that can be put in there. But there was also Kappa and alpha programming, and sort of military sort of stuff. And what happened was that, okay, my divorce came through. I didn't want to celebrate the divorce. I wanted to celebrate a new beginning. And I thought, how the heck am I going to celebrate a new beginning? And oh, yeah, I know. I'll do something that absolutely scares me. I'm going to jump out of an aeroplane. So I arranged to go skydiving. When I was at the airport, a military helicopter came in and poof, 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 poof. Something switched me into a mode. And all of a sudden, I knew what my research project needed to be for my degree. And my research project was that I needed to go and interview people from special forces to find how they heal without being in a talking therapy, because I knew that they were sworn to secrecy and that they were holding secret information. So how do they recover? And all of a sudden, in a flash, I knew that I had to go. It's like everything happened in a moment. And I knew, and I saw myself going to Arizona and interviewing people and doing this research. And I absolutely knew that I had to go. Something came up into my fore. I was like all cosmically aware. I could feel like I changed. I changed in that instant. I did the skydive. I went and contacted a man that I'd been talking to, who I felt this immense magnetism towards, and was really like an infatuation. It was really, I think there's a lady who talks about it that like being like the alien love bite. It can be that strong. Evie Logan. It can be that strong, and it was like such an infatuation. It drove me. It absolutely drove me to go and do this research. And it was like, you have to do it. You've got to do it. And it was so strong, like voices in my head. And the next thing I knew, I was arranging to go to Arizona, and this man was arranging interviews for me, and that I was going to stay at his place and then stay with some other people. And he was also in the military. And then he was do these interviews, and my front person's still feeling like this little young lady, well, not young, yeah, middle-aged lady from New Zealand, innocent as, like, I'm just doing this research, and that's all I knew. And anyway, so this man and I, this is where I've actually felt too scared to ever say this sort of stuff before, because he worked in aerospace. He had been a commander in the Vietnam War and the Green Beret. He was letting on all sorts of things that parts of me knew. Like, he would say things, we could literally make ourselves disappear in the field. And I believed him. And he was saying these things as if, like, I don't know why he was telling me. And he was telling me almost things about shapeshifting, like, and I sort of believed things, but it was almost like these things were kind of popping out of him, and he didn't really mean to say it, but somehow I could hear it, and but I wasn't following it. I wasn't pulled into it, and then anyway, I went. When I went to go to Arizona, and it was kind of miraculous that it kind of even eventuated. It was almost like somehow the universe made it happen, coordination. And I went to the domestic terminal, which was going to take me to the international terminal to fly to LA, and then I had to go over to Dallas and then over to Phoenix, because that was just the flights, the cheapest flights I could get. But at the domestic terminal, they said, we need to take your bag and we need to search it. And my little spidey senses were, note that, okay, I don't trust any of that. So they seemed to already know that I was going and I was on some mission, and what were they putting in my bag? Like the whole thing is, I'm checking you out, but really, are they checking, like, is this going somewhere else? It's like, nothing phases me anymore. Is there spy equipment, whatever? I don't know. Because now, like, having gone doing a little bit of international travel here and there, I get highly picked on in customs. They search me for explosives. I've been bailed up in Kansas, in Japan, like, for ages. Like, it's awful. It really puts you off traveling, and then when I got to LA, the big guy at the customs kind of almost leaned over the counter and sort of said, it's dangerous to go and be with people you've met on the internet, don't you? And he just said it outright, blank, straight like that. That was 2003. And I mean, I don't know, there's a part of me, I've been trained to keep my cool in all of these situations and to not react and to just take note, just to observe, whatever. And then, so the guy, he picks me up from the airport, and everything seems really, really consistent. But at the same time, I start being aware of voices in my head that are guiding me. And there were voices in my head that were reassuring me all the time. You're safe, you're protected. You're safe, you're protected. It's okay. And then this man was trying to put as much fear into me as possible about me going out and doing anything and being anywhere. Trying to say how dangerous everything is all the time. And I would take note of that too, but I was mainly listening to the inner voices. So I sort of hung out, and it was funny because I'd kind of had a little snippet of where I was going to stay, and I could see that I had arrived, and somehow in the big scheme of things, everything was okay. But then I went off to stay with these other people, and I was going to go to Sedona, and I did, but I was also anxious about getting these interviews done because that was why I was really, really there. And it was kind of like a bit weird that I had to go off and spend time with these other people when I really felt like I need to get these interviews done. It was all very muddly. Anyway, where I was staying with these people, I got really overwhelmed, and I needed to be by myself. And so I ended up staying in a hotel and calling this other friend. He was a friend at the time, and saying, look, I'm in a hotel, and he's, what, you didn't feel safe there? Are you all right? And he sort of had this whole thing in his being that he had to protect me and keep me safe. And I had this other thing in my being that I was protected and that I was going to be safe no matter what. And then, so he picked me up from this hotel, which actually turned out to be a brothel type hotel. That's where and he was like, why were you staying in that hotel? And I remember being in the hotel, and it's like everyone looked like they were hooked up with someone, and all the ladies were just smiling as if I was in the trade as well. And I was just like, but all I did was I needed to just have a big long bath and connect with myself, and so I did. But when he came to pick me up, the next day, he was taking me in his car, and he stops the car and pulls over and starts saying to me, now, who are you? Why are you here? What are you doing? And like trying to break me. And I just was like totally confused, and it's like, I'm just doing my research program. And I got quite frightened by it. And he goes, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because he could feel I was going to start crying. And then I did. I started crying. because I was absolutely confused. Like, I don't understand why you're asking me these questions. I don't understand. And then, like, just in conversations, he was giving me the heads up. I see it as a heads up. These intelligence people tend to give you heads up about what they're going to do. So he started to say, oh, and we would use sodium pentothal to make sure, as a lie thing, to make sure people weren't lying, da 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 da. And he was just talking and I was just listening because I was actually interested in my assignment. I was interested in how do people survive. And anyway, he thought that I had an ulterior agenda, and he hadn't even arranged the interviews for me, even though he said he would. And in the end, he only got one other interview for me, and I was really wanting 4 or 5 for my research project for my degree. Anyway, it all worked, and I got one with him and one with another man. But there was one night, I kind of stayed. I think I did the interview with him earlier on, and I watched how he switched into a role when he told his story, and it was mesmerizing. It was absolutely mesmerizing listening to his interview. But it was weird because part of me was reading between all the lines, but it was very confusing because you hear one thing but you know another, you hear one thing and you know another the whole way. And so I took it, and then I was staying at his place, and I was typing it all up and transcribing it all, and I wasn't going out and doing much in Arizona at all. And he said, oh, I'll take you, we'll go to the border of Mexico tomorrow, I'll take you there. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, cool, so naive, Anyway, the next day, hey presto, I don't wake up until it's way, way, way too late in the morning. And it's like weird. And I'm groggy. And it's like, whoa, that's weird. Like, I just slept and slept and slept, and I'm not quite with it. And he goes, oh, it's the jet lag, I was like, oh, yeah, it's the jet lag. I know now that, of course, he was going to question me in the way that he had forecast. This is how I perceive it. This is how I see it. And then another time, and what had happened was, I don't know, just some really weird things happened. Is that, like, I'm very clean and everything, but something had happened, or I'd consumed something where I'd had like this explosive diarrhea. I'll have to say that. But I was not able to clean the mess up. And then when I went back to use that toilet again, it was still there, and I was just, this is weird. This is really way out. And I don't get that. I don't have, oh, it's just the Sergeant Peppers, because, I had a drink of Sergeant Peppers or whatever, or Dr. Peppers or whatever you call it. And that was another weird thing. And then before I left, the night, so I was leaving the next day. The next day when I woke up and I had to go back to the airport, I was just all out in the morning. I was just like, I was just groggy, and I was uncoordinated, and I was trying to wash my hair in the shower, and I couldn't even wash my hair properly. I actually couldn't even get the conditioner in my hair, and I ended up just putting shampoo in twice, and it was all not working, and it was like, oh, just feeling very weird and very strange. And I had, for some reason, I had thought that this man and I were supposed to get together. And And he, there was no outside evidence of anything like that ever happening. In fact, he had told me things that went totally against my morals. He told me that he was into anal sex and stuff like this. And I don't know, I just disassociate, and I would go out in those moments, and I was just all over the place and very weird. But and I had to go to, I got on the plane, and when I hit Dallas, I felt like I was in another world, and I couldn't understand anyone's access, and I had to get through their underground rail system to make the international, or to make, sorry, to go to LA. And I was sort of having flashbacks and freaking out and getting this massive disorientation in the underground train systems, and like feeling like I'm panicking. I'm not going to make my flight. And I couldn't, and I was trying to talk to people, and I couldn't understand what they were saying, and I started to get really overwhelmed. And when I came back home and I walked in the door, it was winter. The whole place was filled. It was like stone cold. It was filled with entities, and I had to get my children. The other thing was that I had forsaken my children. I was so driven. It's like my children were farmed out so I could go and do this assignment, that I wasn't even thinking about my children properly. I was so driven into having this experience. And then he starts to, say, "Oh, that hug that you gave me at the airport was so warm," and like it was, and it's like, this is a fucking game, and then it's so, if and I couldn't do my assignment. I couldn't focus on it. It's like, what has happened? What just happened? I don't know what just happened. I have no idea what happened. Yes, I've got this interview material. Okay, that's what I've got to focus on. But what's just happened? What's just happened? And I was really scared. And then I felt myself being spied on. I don't know, it was through my computer. It felt like it was from satellites, and it was like, oh my God, I'm going fucking crazy. And I didn't know who to talk to, what to say, because it's all too unbelievable, even to myself. So I arranged to meet up with a girl in a bar, a girlfriend that I had at the time, and went to a bar, and I started to say, look, this has happened. I don't know. And she just went, oh, don't be so stupid. Your mate, and that was like, that just threw me even further and further and further into it. And then as soon as I felt myself being surveilled, because these things are felt by a hyper empath, it stopped. It stopped suddenly. And I remember at the time thinking, right, I'm being watched. I need to make sure that they know that I'm no threat, and that what I said I was doing, I am doing. Yeah. So like this man that I stayed with, like when 9/11 happened, I was in contact, and I went, oh my gosh, are you okay? Is everything all right? Like, I sent out a message because we were messaging each other. And he went, don't worry, we've got a plan. That's what he said. Don't worry, we've got a plan. And you know what happened after that? So he was obviously all involved in it. And he was a very dangerous man. And I was attracted to it, and I had to go. And like, why am I attracted to it? One, and who was I reporting to? Like, I used to, my nights, I used to watch the windows for shadows, because someone was always going to be coming. It felt like someone was always going to be coming. And this is the thing, is that you can be taken by someone, questioned, whatever. Like, was I being used as a spy? Because I sure felt like one. I just felt like one. Those were the feelings, but I don't know. and I probably never will know. And it's not that I want to know. I just want to make sure that this all gets sorted so that no more children are harmed, and that all the suffering stops. But this is, I think, an example of how we can possibly be used in their type of warfare. And where it might have been for me, like what is it about me? Yes, I have like very, very strong empathy and psychic senses, which I feel were amplified through the rituals and the programming. I think that when they take you to death's door and beyond and back, I don't know how many times when I did a muscle test, I got 9. That when you go to that and you're in and out of this consciousness, you're in and out of time and space, and your adrenaline has hit the max and you're exhausted and your senses are absolutely heightened, and you become kind of dizzy and delirious, and you're seeing and you're getting all these information. It actually, I think it's actually, well, it's by design. It's totally by design, but we had those gifts born with them anyway in that hypersensitivity, and they know it. We know now how connected in the Church of the Latter-day Saints is with the papacy and with the Freemason. Like it's a Masonic outfit, so it's connected with the world hierarchies. But what do? The first thing they do is they take that sample of blood of every baby, and it's in their ancestry, their bloodlines, and everything is known. Like it's given in when the parents unwittingly register them and hand them over to the state to be used as assets.
This was before you had your memories, right? Of everything. You did this unwittingly, just thinking it was a normal trip. This was before you recovered memories of your past.
I didn't know that I'd been used in SRA at that point.
Right.
I just had a couple of glimpses of things, but I still thought that they were nightmares, and like, where the heck were they coming from?
Did you ever get any memories from kind of the missing time while you were sleeping, waking up groggy? Do you have any idea of what he or they may have used you for while you were there?
I feel I was there to investigate herbal boast.
Okay.
That was just the feeling.
Yeah.
That was the feeling, and that was what he was afraid of. Yeah, but without my knowledge, it's like all out of my sphere. It's like, yeah. I mean, the thing was that I felt a lot of compassion towards him. Like, we talked deeply about the guilt and the horror of, like, he couldn't tell me what had happened. I could read between the lines, but I could feel him. And I remember after all of that, I was out driving, and I just suddenly was, I guess I was remote viewing. It just happened. But I was seeing villages in Vietnam. I could feel the women in the village, and they knew that they were going to be raided, basically. And I could feel the woman's fear, and I was having images thrown up, and I could feel the fear, and then I could feel torment and torture and rape, and then I could feel the death, and then I could feel the absolute quietness of all those women. And then I felt utter forgiveness coming from them. And it was like one of them was in a little red dress, and she said to me, You have to tell him that we forgive him. And I did. And he said he cried. He's used. Did he choose this? Was he a child who ended up being in special forces military? And this is where I have so much compassion. And I've been overreactive about war and warring. You know, like I my little girl, my little 2-year-old, she can't, she's going to talk now. She can't stand the war. She can't stand the war. She can't stand seeing people ripping themselves apart. She can't stand seeing all the blood. Yeah. So, yeah, I know this is super emotional today, but it's just how it is.
Okay. Emotions
Yeah.
are good. It's good. We need more emotion and more compassion and more love and understanding. And it's beautiful to have these non-scripted conversations that we can be safe to just feel,
Yeah.
and bask in that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I see everything really, really differently. And I just think, like so many survivors have been used in ways that they did not agree with, that they would never have wanted to have ever taken part in or do. And it goes deeper and deeper. And my parents were used that way. It just broke everyone apart. It was just divide and conquer. It was just separation from love. Yeah. So, the whole thing is to come back into that love and what I'm really working on for myself. So while I was putting together everything, I remembered that I was told that I was going to go on a girl guide camp. I was special, apparently, even though I was probably the worst girl guide you could possibly have because I hated it and wanted to rebel and say fuck the queen all the time. But anyway, I was told that I was going on a girl guide camp, and I was the only one from my girl guide group, and I was meeting with others from all over the country. And this was up in a place called, I'm pretty sure it was in the Hunua Ranges, which is like sort of a big forestry area, up close to Auckland from where I was. Um, and feeling a lot of intrepidation about going off to this camp. And, we kind of met each other. And I just absolutely stuck like glue to this one other girl who was a little bit older than I was. And I was terrified. I was actually terrified. And she was like just calming me down. This was beyond just going to a school camp type stuff. This was like real terror. And I had such a sense of foreboding, and I didn't know, but I'm pretty sure that it was a programming camp. And all I remember is that all the girls, we all had our beds. It was all set up like military style in a like in a big dorm room, and everybody had their little space, like on a stretcher, and then you have like your box of stuff. And the girl guides, everything goes into a wooden box. Everything has to fit inside of that. And it's quite, it's a little bit like, it reminds me of when I used to watch MASH as a child, and the barracks, they had these little spaces that they live in. It was like that. Anyway, there was also another, I think there was boys or scouts as well across the way. And the only other thing I can remember is us all being outside in a circle and all feeling very trance-like. And that was the boys and the girls outside in a big circle. I don't know what we were doing. I get a sense that there was sexual connecting between the boys and the girls in some way. But I can't really remember that. And I just remember feeling terrified the whole time. So, that this was the whole thing about just not having any choice about where I go and what I do. I was just told this is what you're going and this is what you're doing. And it kind of being a little bit reinforced. My parents seem to know, then they seem to not know. Like they're pretty strong about me never going to see a hypnotherapist. And I was just like researching a little bit about hypnotherapy later. And what I found was that some hypnotherapists are saying that there's so much exposure going on in this world right now because they can only program the conscious, like they program and then it's the conscious mind. So, but we still have a subconscious mind which is going to keep coming up. And this is what they probably didn't bargain on was going to happen, is that people were going to start to access their subconscious mind and start to pull out memories from inside of them, and that science turned around into realizing that the body remembers and that these somatic experiences are body memories. And no wonder it's so confusing when you go to the doctor with these things that are presenting that are actual, but so much more connected to past events than what's present. you know so it all becomes very, very confusing. So I think that Girl Guides and Boy Scouts may be an avenue. It's run by the monarchy. You have to, it's filled with rituals of flag. You have to wave the flag and on the Queen and all this. And I used to resent that and hate that, and secretly in my mind want to say fuck you to the Queen all the time. And as a child, but that was a part of me that was there, but it had to stay such a lid on it, stay so squished down. It wasn't allowed out. If it came up, it was always punished. Yeah. So yeah. Have you had other people from Girl Guides, Boy Scouts sort of?
I have had a couple of people testify, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Uh,
Yeah.
the Guild Guide, I'm not sure if I've had anybody from that, or maybe because I have interviewed multiple people from New Zealand, maybe they just didn't present that, but it's something that was in their past. But I found that to be true too. And I think there's connections to Freemasonry, Rotary. I think it's sort of all
Yeah.
encompassed Lions Club. They all really work together. It's just different levels and factions of connections, but
Yeah.
it's sort of all underneath the same tree. So I can see how that would be part of your story, since Freemasonry was so ingrained in your testimony, in your childhood, in your family, and the surroundings, the ritual abuse. That doesn't surprise me that there was also these, little
Yeah.
clubs that you were in as a child as well.
Yeah, and the feeling of the buildings, and it's because I feel everything, the feeling of the buildings, like the Girl Guide buildings, um, they feel the same as town hall type things. They feel that they have that same energy, that same, ooh, it's really, really bleak for me because of what it feels connected to. It's very heavy, it's very musty, it's very
Like a
like
dark, heavy
yeah,
energy.
like dusty something. It's just like it's really, really gross to me. And like I think I've also been looking at myself and trying to understand myself and accept myself as I'm calling it hyper empath. Like as a narrative counselor, I'm not into labels and tags because they can hold such energy.
Mm.
But we have to have a framework to understand. And I think that probably for a lot of us, because we are so highly empathic and highly feeling, um, we take on our surroundings. So if we are constantly dissociated from our body, it's almost like we become our surroundings. So I walk into this party, and this is the things that can happen to me. I can totally get into a vibe of just about anything. So if I go into a party and I mean, I don't need alcohol, I don't need anything. Say they're all dancing and they're all doing something, I'll be right into it. like like with my ex-partner, we thought we'd go off and do some like I don't know what do they call it, like South American dancing. It's like tango, salsa, salsa. That I don't know what all that sort of stuff. We went off to a dance thing one night, and we were just doing it for fun. And I'd never danced it in all my whole life that I know of. And anyway, so we get out there and we start dancing, and like we're just having a ball of a time, just watching what everybody else is doing, and like totally into it, and like I'm just caught up in the whole atmosphere. And the next thing I know, I'm in the finals. I didn't even know that they were doing that, and they was like, "Oh, we're all called up to dance because we're in the finals of the best dancers in the room."
Wow.
I mean, I know it's only a small town thing, but I've never done it in my life. And anyway, my partner and I, we just we were just both really rebellious, and this is what I really loved about him. And so we thought, okay, we've got all this room, let's not dance, let's spin. Which is funny spinning, isn't it? But anyway, so we got up there. We weren't interested in any competition. We're so anti-competition, because this was about us both finding ourselves. I believe that things happened to him that he doesn't even know about. But yeah, so we just went spinning around in the room. But this is an example, and like there's been moments where I've been like the life and the soul of the party because I'll be doing like a comedy, or it just will just come out of me because that's the vibe, that is what's happening. And it's almost like, who are all these people, like who are they? And I think part of the programming may be that to dissociate us out and to have us so sensitive to whatever surroundings in is that we can blend into every single surrounding that we are in and come off looking like we're just one of that. We're part of that. For whatever purpose and whatever reason. So it's been, I've found like with this hyper empathy, like that partner that I had at that time, and he was the one that taught me the breath work. He was like, he would do something called, we would go into your mind basically, and you could go and you could see what your body needed, you could pull it out of the cupboard, you could take it, you could do all of this sort of stuff. And I learned a lot about consciousness this way because like he would teach me all of these things, which he was like a metaphysical reverend. I seem to be attracted to these kind of people, because this was also a little bit of part of the Cinderella programming, I believe. I had that the little girl in me, what did I want most in life? Actually, the thing I wanted most out of life was to be a mother and to have children that would grow up safely and have beautiful, loving life experiences, which was a bit idealistic, but that was my 2-year-old craving that. Where was I going with that? Oh,
We were talking about the dance classes.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was an actual dance. It wasn't even a class.
That's like ballroom dancing. That's no joke.
Oh, I've been able to get into ballroom dancing. It's just like you just go in there and you just pretend, and as you let go and it happens. Yeah. Yeah, it's to be with this, it's to do with the super empath. yeah, so I have to make friends with that and know that actually the psychicness is really, really proven right consistently for a long, long time. And what was happening that was while I was doing my Mayan posts and things, and I look back, I was saying before these last 5 years, this stupid period that it has been, the theatrics of that, I was I was people were seeing me as crazy because I was saying things like, we've got to become sovereign, like we need to return to nature, we need to build community, we've got to start loving one another, we've got to be doing this, and I was like going into all of that way back then, and everyone was saying, crazy, what? You've got to do what the government says. Like way back then, everybody was seeing the government as their friend and their assistant, and that this is how we do life, and this is how it is, and I felt so alone in saying all of these things, but I was picking up what was necessary for this time. And then when I look back, I actually think I was really I was really correct. Like, I might not have been able to say it, and I had all sorts of parts that were coming up and vying for attention. I was very inconsistent because I was so scattered and so fractured and triggered and all over the place. But when I look back over all these years, because I started writing in 2015, so that was 10 years ago. I started to, and even though I was on the wrong system, the time system to start off with, I was still connecting into the collective consciousness, and I was still feeling, and I was still, finding, and I guess I was discovering what I couldn't even see in myself. I was like so well aware of the undercurrents of everything that were underneath my whole experience, and I didn't have any idea that my experience was so deeply rooted in what was happening, that what they were doing to me and is what they were doing to all of society in another level, and that all of society had become mind controlled programmed. I mean, you just even look at the word govern. Govern means to control, and means mind. So what is the role of government? It is to control the minds, and that's what they do. Do we want our minds controlled, or do we want to learn purely connectedly in nature? Yes, that's what I wanted for my children. I wanted them to have the experiences of finding, at some level, the experiences of finding themselves in the beauty and the wonder in life. And I loved it that my oldest daughter used to challenge her dad by saying, why do I have to have manners? Why do I have to behave? And I would say, that's a really good question. That's a very good question. And he would like, don't encourage that, because he was just like, it was almost like I had married someone who was like my mother, like, and he became the handler, because I believe my mother was my greatest handler, although I kept getting a flashback of a certain Thai kind of guy somewhere. There's a certain Thai kind of guy that consistently coordinated different things. He just appeared and showed up, and I think it might have been whoever it was my parents must have had an agreement with. So I won't even know, but I just call him the coordinator, and that there was some interest in me, and and that it takes a whole lot of courage to say why me, and is it simply because I'm one of these people, like the many survivors. Like, when I realized I was a survivor of this, I only thought there was like a handful in the world. I really didn't know until
I thought
I
that too when I started my podcast. I was like, man, this is going to be a short-lived little series. Like, how am I ever? There's got to be only a couple people in the whole world who have gone through this stuff.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm glad you said that, because that, and then it's kind of like, oh my gosh, they're all just coming out of the woodwork.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
Overwhelming. I mean, we knew about some of the more well-known ones, which were a handful. And then it's just like they're just pouring out, all over the world. And I think each and every voice is in that beautiful young one you just had. My gosh,
I know,
talent like this lady.
22 years old. I mean, how amazing. How young.
And how I was inspired by her sense of self, like through all of that, like her sense of self. And here I am all diminished and like, and she's got it. And like, man, that's holding her through. But the love, and, and, and the love that she has for everybody. And like, like I feel a lot like her. And it's like, well, I'm out here because I'm going to make sure that my life is safe. And I know that I've got to talk and everybody has to know about that. And yeah, life's still at risk. And to me, that same protection that I felt when I went to Arizona has never faltered, and it's never left me. And I think it's a part of my higher knowing, it's a part. I've got to own that. Even though there's all parts that have been fighting and hurt and abused and gatekeeping and persecuting, and there's parts that have been nurturing and holding and observing and seeing and finding and knowing, and those parts are incredibly valuable, and they are a part of a whole system. And like being a hyper empath, and like the big realizations of that, wow, time and space can't even bind us. They are bindings, they are extraterrestrial technology. And we have been in this for not just millennia. This is million-year-old cycle, millions of years old, as I see it. And I have memory of the Lyran invasion, of being a cat type person. I remember ancient memory of being like a Lyran, which are like the walking cat type people, or beings, and being of our home planet being grown up by the Draco reptilian. And I see the foundation of our captivity very much has been through the technology of the Draco reptilian overall. So that's where things have become a lot of cosmic knowing. And just even holding that awareness and that knowing, I think that's made me a threat to the status quo. I have a sense of a whole cosmic reality. And I think, it was also why I was so drawn to the Mayan calendar, who also recognize things as star beings, but because they work with the space-time continuum, to me now, that is part of the simulation, is part of our whole perceptions on what space and time is, and that we could actually be bound by space and we could be bound by time. It's an actual illusion, and that's what I feel that humanity is breaking out of, and why it's all starting to be very sci-fi. I do get visions and things, and I do know that while the extraterrestrial invasion has been on our earth forever and people have been looking up instead of looking down, yes, I do feel we are going to see things from above, and we are going to know whether they are star family or not. I feel that there's going to be a fake alien invasion. It's going to be one of the theatrics that will go on, that what may make it through here is actually because our consciousness is coming into a phase where it can actually be seen, because we only see this little wee phase of light with our human eyes. But when we go through into meditation, into breathwork, into seeing truth, we see so much more, and that it's almost like that's going to possibly bleed into or merge into our reality. And so the whole thing is, well, let's be ourselves, remember who we are, and come from our knowing and our intuition with all of these things that are going to evolve over the next period of time. Will be challenged, like, and that's the whole thing. We are being challenged in every way. So the foundation of the love that we really are is really, really, really important. And that love is there's nothing woo woo or mushy or about it. It's a deep, deep love. It's like everything that is coming into balance and harmony. And we will not, until humanity learns how intimately connected we are with each other, that we are all beings of source, that we all have that beautiful energy inside us all the time. We're going to stop beating each other up. We're going to stop putting each other down. We're going to be putting our hands out and extending unconditional love to one another. And unconditional love is what speaks to me the most. And, like O'Block, he didn't have to look at all the programs that I had after everything he's been through, and he's on his healing journey. But he did that because of the love that's inside of him. And this lovely Epstein survivor, she's like, I'm not taking any money from you, you know. And I said, look, I don't have it. I wish there was something I could do. She's like, no, it's not about this, like, and this is unconditional love. And I think this is also the gift that Marie could give to me, even though we still have an equality with that, and we work things out in a different way because we know what that was about. And that's what's really, really important. And my heart and my whole thing being used so contrarily for banking purposes is, we need to get past all of this, like, well, you can have it because you can pay for it. That's so conditional. um and that the haves and the have-nots and the hierarchies, and, oh, you're amazing because you have like 2 million followers, and well, you've only got 50, so you're nothing, all of this
Yes.
crap.
Yes, no,
Yeah,
I'm really happy that you brought that up because that's been something I've contemplated a lot these last few years, especially understanding that the hierarchy at the highest levels is typically granted to people who earn it through doing things off the backs of innocent people. That their
yeah,
hierarchy isn't genuine because of unconditional love, but it is because of conditions of slavery, of evil, of selfishness, of narcissism, of psychopathy. And yet these are the people that are put on the pedestal that we are taught and brainwashed and conditioned to idolize,
yeah,
to think of as being higher than us, as, these people that we need to admire and idolize, and oftentimes, the person that has 50 followers has a bigger heart and, has so much more to give and earns that 50 followers from being genuinely loved by those 50 people instead of a popularity contest off of, evil, so
yeah.
it's
And
really,
why are you doing it in the first place? Because I want to make the world a better place. Imagine
yeah.
a better world.
And you see how like money, they weaponized a condition against us instead of the old ways before money existed, where it was bartering. Maybe you have cow's milk and I have sugar. or we're just friendly neighbors and we care about each other. We're going to help each other out when we're struggling, the way that civilizations did before money existed, and even the way civilizations do that exist now that still don't run off currency. They've taught us that giving and that love and that caring about somebody comes with a condition,
Yeah,
and the homeless person on the street isn't worth our money because they can't give us something back that we can't exchange,
yeah,
and it's really sad because money is really just in place of energy. It's like we can rip up
yeah,
paper and throw it away. Like money is just it's nothing. It's a condition. It's slavery,
yeah,
And so I love that you brought that up because it's been something that's really been on my heart. And then really just, that was why even on my platform, I didn't go after the people that have 2 million followers. I went after the people that have the biggest hearts and the most incredible stories and the most that we can learn from them. It's not
yeah,
about followers. If we can get people with good hearts, a good following, that's great. But that shouldn't be what we seek to idolize. We should look at
yeah,
heart and what they did to what they're doing.
yeah.
What is that person doing? Who is that person? The person that has 2 million followers might be a really shitty person. Are they
And
worth
what
our
and
idolatry?
what are people following them for? Is it because they're
Exactly.
just intrigued and they just want to hear the drama and the the it's what's that word? Sensationalized. And instead of like this is the real stuff, and
Yes.
like I don't like even like the idea of followers. I just think, well, hey, there's possibly messages that can inspire a movement of people returning back to their love, back to nature, back to everything. Like when I meditate with nature, I medit. It's almost like she really wants me to say these things. She really wants me to put it forward for her. It's like sometimes I feel I'm speaking on her behalf because there's a whole bunch of people that are actually her voice. It's like, come back to me. This is what's real. Like, okay, all of this stuff has been a simulation and overlay and everything that is put upon me, and I've been raped and I've been bet and I've been polluted and I've been hurt too. It's very much the same, like so, like like it's been so precarious that the whole earth could have been obliterated in different moments. And if it wasn't for things that are going on behind the scenes that I feel and know about, she would have been, because source is more powerful than anything and anyone. And it's through source that we're still here breathing his breath of life through our being today and speaking through that inspiration and doing what we do, that inspiration. And then the sourceless ones who come and try to take our energy because they sold out and their religion requires our adrenaline, our blood, our whatever for them to be filthy rich and stay in power. Those ones aren't even seen behind the puppets that are put out in front in the theatrics. Those ones behind are the mothers of darkness that were pulled in that didn't get out. Those ones are the ones, like I would say Musk's mother, people like this, that have all these roles that are secret, and then they put other people out in front and in the limelight to represent. And source is above and beyond all of that. Source is why any survivor that is alive today, this is a miracle. It's an absolute miracle, because the last thing they ever wanted was for us to remember and to say what this is. And what do we feel like? Absolute crazy things. We're saying, well, I saw this, and they were like, there was a bit in my mouth, they were shocking me, there was stuff around my head, there was a big screen, there was like extraterrestrials here, and there was halls and cupboards and clinics and people and rooms and spinnings, and there was, like there was all of the stuff that we see, and I'm proud of my little girl. I'm proud of her right now.
We're all proud of her and she's proud of you.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
bathing at you.
Yeah, because she's loving me for speaking on her behalf as well, and behalf of all those that lost their lives, all those that were used, that even way back then she was born with some kind of knowing, but still going through all of this, like, and that love for children, it will never be wasted. It will never be that, like, I struggled and I wrestled and thought I'd been caught in a soul trap for a while, and that, like, this is so cruel. Why would I ever want this in my life to be shattered into a million bits and have to find my way to put myself back together again? The thing that motivates me and keeps me going is the enormous power and strength and the potency of Source to transcend the whole of space and time, to transcend everything, that we are on our way out. In some ways, if time and space is illusion, we are out, but we have to focus on this. So what I see is that trauma holds us. It can hold us to itself. It's almost like it can slow down time. Like, I remember when I was riding my bicycle to work once, and I was a Christian at the time, and a voice said to me, "You're going to be an accident today," and I got an image of my face getting all scraped along the ground, and so I thought, oh well, I'll have a prayer, and then I didn't worry about it. And then I was riding my bicycle home later that day, and a car failed to give way to me at a roundabout, and I got thrown over the bonnet of the car, and I I was just scooping along the ground in my arms, and I landed very heavily on my hip, but I went right over the top of the car and landed on the ground, and my face wasn't touched. So I'm still in the accident. I think my hip got very, very hurt, and then it was like I felt this going all over the tar seal, and when I looked down, there was just only a couple little stones and a tiny little bit of streak, and then I suddenly went going, "It's a miracle! It's a miracle!" And I was like in this weird state, and a parking attendant came running up to me to make sure I was right, and I was, "It's a miracle! It's a miracle! I'm all right! I'm all right!" And I was in this state because I suddenly remembered I'd had this vision that I was going to be in an accident. I'd prayed about it, and that, yes, my bike was totally obliterated, and I got a new bicycle out of it. But um, but like, in that moment of the trauma, you remember every single second. It's like you're going over the bonnet of the car in slow motion. You're scooping along the ground this slow. You land on your hip, and it's that slow. And this is what trauma does: it slows down time. And I think that this has got something to do with with the time manipulation, and that time can be reset, and internets can be scrubbed, and our whole reality can look different, and that at different times, in different phases, there's been different resets that have happened to humanity without them even knowing that it happens. And I know of people who have seen almost like, oh, there's a building there and there's not. It's like they've gone back in time to when the building wasn't there, and then when the building is there, and I've had that experience. um I've had that experience as well, really strange experiences. And I've had other experiences of, like having connection with a field of grass, and that every blade of grass was in communication with each other, and that it's all purposeful, and it's like there's so much life force in everything. Like, the reality is nature, and the unreality is everything that breath of life has been sucked out of. And realizing also that suck our breath out for their life, and you know, all the games and everything that has been played. So it's just become a lot like a sci-fi thing in some ways, and I think that life is going to become a lot like that. It's going to look like a lot like that for people in the future. And I think almost to have the heads up, it means that we can ease our way into it, and that we can you know, like as a hyper empath, we also need to become a sovereign thing, which means I can't do your pain. I can only do my pain. Yes, I can feel your pain, but I can't do your pain. I've got to do my pain. I have to have a very strong sense of myself, which was very, very lacking. And where that sense of self was so lacking and that self esteem was so low, that's where I was almost grabbing onto different people and going, tell me about this. And how do you see that? And how do you see this? And da da da. When actually I knew. And it's like, well, trust that knowing now, Poppy, like center, center, center. But as the programs come off, and it really is programs I'm dealing with now, like the entities are gone. A lot of the memories, well, there's enough memory to know that there's a lot that's happened. Yes, programs and memories do come together a bit, you know. But that's in it. It's bringing myself into me, like you know, I have another survivor friend. I absolutely value everybody's experience and how they make it through. And she says, "Oh, well, I'll never be integrated, and I'm just accepting that, and I'm just letting my parts be who they are and do what they do." And I go, "Wow, that's cool," and I can really see it working for her. I want everything to be integrated in me within me, because I feel that this is what life is about. Life is about growing and learning and healing, and becoming authentic is to be, you know, is integrating. And if I become integrated in myself and I'm not warring and conflicting within myself, then I'm one less person who's doing that in the whole big world where there's just so much of it going on. And people, it's really dawning on people how much they've been deceived and how much they've been lied to and tricked, um, and that life is nothing like any of us thought it ever was. It's enough to break. You know, it can break us, and it can really build us. And I'm going to go on to the really build side, because I haven't come this far and had this amount of suffering and this amount of pain. You know, I'm not going to let that be wasted. So I'm claiming all of myself back, rebuilding myself. I'm grateful for these persecuted parts. Thank you, Carrie, aloha, for helping me have the courage to do one of her journal suggestions, which was to write down all the things that they were saying. And, you know, like I didn't want to look at that because what they were saying was purely venomous, was pure evil. It was terrible what those gatekeeper parts were saying, what they had taken on from being hypnotized and deprived and electrocuted, and all the processes that they do. I really need to get on top of sleep deprivation. I've been working out different things. I find um, someone will put out a bit of knowledge about spin programs, or the Dorothy thing of feeling so isolated and not knowing where home is, and all these things, and I start to understand myself a little bit more. So I'm in a constant state of prayer, and I know that source is directing my path, and I would not be alive without that. Is what, just as so many of your beautiful survivors, they've found their way. My way is a little bit different in that I still can't handle some parts, and I just have to honor and work with what I can do and what I do have and what I do know and what really works for me. But it does really work for me. And some people are a little bit worried that it wouldn't. But I just want to reassure people that I am so, so, so connected with Source, even in the moments where I panic and feel like I can't feel. I can't feel his love, and I'm absolutely connected with our beautiful mother, which is so, it's, this is what nurtures us. This is what, she, we can't live without her. That's also why we're here for her. And and in being here for her matter, then we need to be here for ourselves. So it really is love yourself, and then we can love others. It's that simple. And all we really have to do is keep that love flowing, 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 growing. I'm venturing out to expand my heart more as it feels safer, because so many principalities and powers and stuff and AIs and things have been obliterated and have been cleansed away. And I can feel that. And it would not have been as safe for me to say this. If I said this 5 years ago, I think I could have been dead on the spot. But now, because so much has been taken care of and so much has been, it doesn't have power over me anymore. My absolute knowing and connection with source is sure. It's really sure, even when it's not. Underneath, there's a part of me who will hold it, while that other part who is unsure can get down to the bottom of what happened. And because, yeah, they did. The whole thing, and this is what I believe the whole objective was, is to sever people who are connected from that, because they wanted everybody in something that is artificial. Everyone can be used as a battery then, and siphoned. Yeah. So I feel like we're coming to a natural conclusion.
Yes, and as always, you shine a bright light on the dark and leave us with hope, with love, with compassion, and just, this beautiful energy that you've cultivated within yourself. I think everybody listening feels that at the end of these hard discussions. And I love that you can do that, because it takes a really special person to be able to transform that pain into something purposeful, to have that drive, to want to heal. So many people don't ever even start that journey, and to see you blossom episode after episode, month after month, year after year, going on this journey with you is just beautiful, Poppy. It's
Mm.
incredible just, getting to have you on this show and watching you discover more and you heal more and remember more and integrate more every time that you come on, and just have these, layers of wisdom that you're able to share with these different layers that you're uncovering with yourself. And it's really beautiful. It's really neat to get these more higher perspectives from you, to get rooted back in love and compassion, these really basic things that we've sort of lost along the way because of things like money. And I
Yeah.
just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the work that you do, for your courage to speak out, for your raw and unfiltered vulnerability, and just for all the gifts of healing, love, and truth that you give to everybody. We all feel you and we
Yeah.
love you so much. And for people
Yeah.
listening, before we sort of tie up, I want to promote your Substack and your YouTube, if you want to just give those a shout out real quick, and I can bring them up on the screen.
Yeah. So the YouTube is the handle at Mayan Missions, and there's the Substack at Mayan Missions that I really want to connect people with. Yeah, I'm on Facebook, but I've been so triggered on Facebook that I haven't been able to hold, like, I just feel like it's not a really, it hasn't, in the past, it hasn't been a good reflection of who I really am. It's just been more a reflection of broken parts over the years. So it's not something that I'm into so much, but yeah, yeah. So yeah, thank you. Those are the two places that I really feel the most at home and comfortable in, and they also are connected with your work too, Emma. And you have been a part of just holding me in safety, in the sense that the more people that, because the whole story gets put out there, that does create a safety for me. Yeah. So thank you everybody who's tuned in, um, and thank you everybody doing their part to support. And also, like, so I know that so many that are out there, like you, Emma, that we're actually transmuting energy, and we're actually clearing, and we are creating a better world for children, which is our heart, and something that we share, and a common mission. Yeah.
And with leaders like you leading the way, I know that we're destined to go good places. It inspires me seeing all these survivors come forward. I think people just naturally want to associate you guys with being these kind of fragile, delicate people. And although we need to handle you with grace because what you went through, you don't deserve any more abuse and gaslighting for coming forward. You guys really are the most indestructible, powerful, amazing, incredible, loving people that have ever walked the planet. And I really feel like the world's going to change through all of you. And so I'm so deeply grateful that you came on today. Thank you for sharing everything that you did. We cannot wait to have you back. And I hope everybody listening follows you on YouTube and supports your Substack. It's amazing when survivors create free platforms for us to learn. So if you guys could go in the show notes and follow Poppy, that would mean the world to me. And you guys, we couldn't do this without you. We're so grateful for you. Thank you guys for all your support. God bless you all, and we will see you next time.